More than 4 million Americans woke up to a winter storm warning this morning in May, and that number alone should tell you everything you need to know about how unusual this week is going to be. The Rockies near Denver are staring down up to 2 feet of snow tonight and tomorrow, not light powder, but heavy, wet, concrete-like snow, dropping onto trees that have fully leafed out, and forecasters are already warning of widespread power outages before Wednesday morning arrives. And here is the part that genuinely stopped me when I first pulled up the models this morning. The exact same storm system burying Colorado in May snow is the identical system that is going to light the fuse for golf ball hail and tornado-producing supercells from Texas to Alabama, one storm. Two completely different faces on opposite ends of the country. Stay with me through the 7-minute mark, because that is when I am going to explain the one atmospheric ingredient that could make Wednesday night across the Deep South the most dangerous window of this entire week. And it is something most weather apps will never once show you. And if you make it all the way to the end, I have a piece of information about what is building behind this storm for next week across the Southwest that is going to make a lot of you do a serious double take, because what comes after this cold and snow is a completely different kind of extreme. All right, let's get into the full picture here, and I want to start with today, Tuesday, because the severe weather clock across the South is already ticking, and your window for preparation is a whole lot shorter than most people sitting at home today realize. The Storm Prediction Center has a slight risk of severe weather in place today, covering northeast Texas, Arkansas, southern Missouri, and parts of western Tennessee. That zone includes Little Rock, Memphis, Fort Smith, and the entire Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex, which means tens of millions of people are already in or near this risk area today. Here is what is driving today's setup. A potent cold front is dropping from the northeast down into Arkansas and Texas, and it is going to run head-on into a sharp dry line and intense upper-level winds this afternoon. And when those three things collide at rush hour, the result is not a slow buildup. It is explosive, and it moves fast, and y'all, that is not an exaggeration. Picture this by 5 o'clock this afternoon. The sky over Texarkana is going to start changing. What looks like a regular cloudy afternoon is going to build into towering storm columns punching 50,000 feet into the air, because the upper atmosphere is cooling so fast with height that updrafts have nothing to slow them down. Those fast, unstoppable updrafts are what produce golf ball size hail, the kind that shatters windshields, dents hoods, and goes through skylights. And if you have a car sitting outside anywhere from Shreveport to Texarkana to Little Rock this afternoon, now is the time to get it undercover, plain and simple, no joke. The peak tornado window today runs from roughly 5 p.m. through 10 p.m. across northeast Texas into Arkansas, and any supercell that fires along the warm front near Jonesboro and north of Little Rock is going to have an elevated risk of producing a strong, long-track tornado. That is the corridor I am watching most closely this afternoon. Dallas-Fort Worth, you are on the western edge of today's highest risk, and the storms are going to fire right over the metroplex during the evening commute before pushing east in a hurry. And if you had Cinco de Mayo plans outside tonight anywhere in this slight risk zone, do yourself a solid and move those plans indoors before dark. The tornado risk does not care about the holiday. Once those individual supercells eventually merge into a squall line, that line is going to be screaming eastward at close to 60 miles per hour highway speeds, and that forward motion amplifies the damaging wind threat significantly, because the storm's own internal winds stack right on top of that forward speed, and that is what snaps power poles. Here's the safety call I want you to make before this video is done. If a tornado warning drops on your location at 1 in the morning and your phone is silenced across the bedroom, that warning is completely useless to you. Turn on wireless emergency alerts tonight before you go to sleep. Not tomorrow morning, tonight. If you are in a mobile home anywhere from DFW through Little Rock and into Memphis, I am talking to you specifically and directly. Please make arrangements to be in a sturdy structure tonight, because a mobile home is not a safe place when these storms roll through after dark and you have seconds, not minutes, to act. And here is something worth thinking about. Every city in this risk zone is going to get a different timing window, a different primary threat, and a different severity level, and knowing which one belongs to you is the difference between being ready and being caught completely flat-footed. Now, good Lord, that front does not stop in Arkansas, and this is exactly where the story starts to get complicated. Wednesday is when 8 million people from East Texas through Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama step directly into the crosshairs, and Wednesday has a whole different set of problems compared to Tuesday. By Wednesday afternoon, storms are going to ramp up and sweep through the Tennessee and lower Mississippi valleys overnight, riding ahead of that same advancing cold front on a deep plume of Gulf moisture that is basically rocket fuel for thunderstorms, and the setup looks like a carbon copy of the worst kind of spring night across the Deep South. The biggest wild card for Wednesday, and this is what has forecasters most on edge, is what meteorologists call a Kappa layer of warm air in the mid-levels that acts like a lid on a pressure cooker, holding everything back until enough energy builds underneath to blow straight through it. The models are flat out disagreeing on how strong that cap is going to be by Wednesday afternoon. Here is why that argument between the models matters so much for you if the cap holds and limits discrete storm development. The main threat stays as a messy squall line cranking out 60 miles per hour wind gusts, still dangerous and still worth preparing for, but a different kind of dangerous than what I am about to tell you. And this is the scenario I promised you at the top, if that cap breaks over Mississippi and individual supercells fire ahead of the main line near Jackson or Birmingham, those storms will have wind shear, pushing 65 knots available to work with, which is more than enough horsepower to get them spinning and producing strong, significant tornadoes. I need to stop right here and say this directly. Jackson, Mississippi, and Birmingham, Alabama. Wednesday night is the window I am most focused on for both of your areas. Wednesday night is going to be loud, it is going to be windy, and depending on how that cap behaves, it could be genuinely, seriously dangerous. Do not let Tuesday's passage make you think you are done. Margaret from Shreveport, you are right in that transition zone between Tuesday night and Wednesday morning, and that overnight corridor is the window I want you watching. Get your shelter plan locked in before Tuesday evening, honey, because the overnight hours are when you have the absolute least visibility on what is bearing down on you. Now, wind and hail are not even the whole Wednesday story, and this next part is what worries me the most about the Deep South this week, because the water is going to be a massive separate problem running right alongside the storm threat at the exact same time. A slight risk for excessive rainfall is in effect specifically across the Tennessee Valley and the southern Appalachians, and in those mountains, it takes about half as much rain to cause double the flooding problem compared to flat terrain, because those creeks and hollows drain fast and they drain hard. Moisture levels are running significantly above normal for early May. We are talking about a deep plume of tropical moisture colliding with a wave of energy dropping out of Canada, and that combination is going to wring everything out over the southern Appalachians in a very short, very concentrated time window on Wednesday. We are looking at 1.5 to 3 inches of rain in a compressed window across the Tennessee Valley, with isolated spots potentially hitting 4 inches, and 4 inches of rain on mountain terrain in a few hours is enough to turn low-lying roads into rivers by dinner time, sometimes with less than 15 minutes of warning before it gets dangerous. Earl from just outside Huntsville, buddy, I know you have been through plenty of rough spring nights, and I know you take this seriously, but this Wednesday has both the wind threats and the flooding threat running at exactly the same time. You need a shelter plan and a flood route plan both locked in before Tuesday evening, not Wednesday morning, when the rain is already falling. Every single time you come up on a road with water across it that you cannot see the bottom of turnaround, do not drive through it. The creek that looked perfectly fine an hour ago is not the same creek you're looking at now, and no appointment, no errand, no shortcut home is worth what happens when that current catches your vehicle. All right, let's swing completely out west, because while the South is tracking severe weather and flooding, the Rockies are sitting in the middle of something that honestly looks flat out surreal when you see it on the calendar, a full-on winter storm warning, and the numbers behind it are not polite. The mountain forecast has already been upgraded from a watch to a full winter storm warning, and the bullseye sits directly over Rocky Mountain National Park, the Medicine Bow Range, and the I-25 corridor from Cheyenne through Fort Collins and into Denver, and we are talking 10 to 24 inches in the high country, with isolated spots near Estes Park and Cameron Pass approaching 30 inches. Now, a lot of you Colorado and Wyoming folks watching this are probably thinking, shoot, it is May. Does this snow actually stick to the roads? And the answer this time is yes, absolutely yes, because the heaviest rates are going to fall overnight when temperatures are crashing and road treatment crews are fighting a losing battle on the mountain passes. Here's what makes this May storm genuinely more dangerous than a January storm of the same size the trees have already fully leafed out, and that matters enormously. That heavy, wet, concrete-like snow is going to load onto full spring leaf canopy, bow limbs all the way to the ground, and bring whole branches crashing down directly onto power lines across the Front Range. Widespread power outages are expected across Colorado before Wednesday morning, and when you lose power in May, people are not ready for it the way they are in January. Flashlights are put away, backup heat sources are not staged, and food in the fridge is the last thing on anyone's mind until the lights go out at 2 a.m. The I-25 corridor from Cheyenne through Fort Collins and Denver is going to see heavy, wet, accumulating snow late tonight through Wednesday morning, and the I-70 mountain corridor Eisenhower Tunnel, Loveland Pass, Berthoud Pass. Vale Pass is looking at near zero visibility and treacherous slushy road surfaces that will catch drivers completely off guard. Denver Metro and the Front Range from Fort Collins south to Castle Rock, you're under a winter storm watch with 3 to 9 inches on the table. Heaviest north of I-70 and west of I-25. The Wednesday morning commute is going to be an absolute mess, and if you can work from home Wednesday morning, do it. No two ways about it. Just stay home. Dale Simmons from the Cheyenne area, I know you are no stranger to late season snow, but even for Wyoming, this one is on the heavier end of what you see in May. The I-80 stretch between Laramie and Cheyenne is going to be pretty much impassable Wednesday morning with whiteout conditions and icy overpasses, so treat Thursday morning's drive like a mid-January blizzard, not a spring commute, plain and simple. And if you planned on heading out to Coors Field to catch the Mets play the Rockies on Wednesday afternoon, bundle up like it is the middle of January, because freezing temperatures and accumulating snow are genuinely on the table for first pitch. It says May on the calendar, but winter in the Rockies has always lived on its own stubborn terms, and this week is no exception. Boulder, Larimer County, Estes Park, Nederland, and Red Feather Lakes, you are in the highest total zone, and the heaviest rates are going to fall overnight when road crews have the hardest time keeping up. If you have travel plans Wednesday morning anywhere in these areas, build in extra time, or better yet, postpone entirely because the roads are going to be genuinely ugly. Here is something most people watching from outside Colorado do not realize about this storm. The cutoff low pulling across the southwest is dragging brutally cold air down from Canada into the Front Range, and temperatures at elevation are going to crash below 10 degrees Fahrenheit. That is what turns a slushy rain-snow mix into a full-on accumulating packing, road-closing storm at lower elevations. For folks around that 3,000 to 5,000 foot elevation band places like Wheatland and Kimball, Wyoming, you are sitting right in the battleground zone where heavy rain transitions to slushy, accumulating snow on the road surface. That transition zone is actually the most dangerous stretch to drive because it happens faster than the weather radar shows and faster than your tires can handle. And this winter system does not just vanish after hitting Denver by Thursday. Accumulating wet snow and gusty winds march eastward into the central high plains, covering eastern Colorado, southeast Wyoming, and northwest Kansas. Snow levels keep dropping as that cold air expands east. And even communities that rarely see May snow are going to be dealing with it by Thursday morning. Now, while Colorado digs out and the South tracks Wednesday's storms, a completely separate hazard is painting the maps orange and yellow from Washington, D.C., all the way through coastal Maine today, and most of the national conversation is focused so far south that this northeast piece is getting overlooked. Wind advisory is in effect right now for nearly all of Virginia, Winchester, Charlottesville, Richmond, Virginia Beach, and for most of Maryland, all of Delaware, and coastal New Jersey, Washington, D.C., and the surrounding suburbs are fully inside this advisory, with strong westerly winds sweeping through behind the advancing cold fronts. Albany and the Hudson Valley are under a high wind warning, the most serious wind level, with gusts expected to reach 35 to 40 miles per hour. And here is the kicker that makes this more than just a breezy afternoon. Relative humidity is dropping to 30 to 35% across the Hudson River Valley at the same time. And that combination of strong wind and single-digit humidity creates dangerous fire spread conditions. A special weather statement covers the zone from Albany southward through the Hudson River Valley, the Catskills, the Berkshires in Massachusetts, and Litchfield County in Connecticut, and the National Weather Service is specifically calling out elevated fire spread risk through the afternoon hours today. Do not burn anything outdoors today. Period. Full stop. Carol from Richmond, your area is inside that wind advisory today. And the dry, gusty conditions this afternoon make this a genuinely bad time to be burning yard debris or doing anything near an open flame outside. Get through today's advisory window safely and then watch the temperature drop behind the front because frost is possible across the colder spots in your area later this week. For anyone up in the Albany area and through the Catskills and Berkshires, that high wind warning is not a minor inconvenience this afternoon. Fire spread conditions with 40 miles per hour gusts and 30% humidity can turn a small brush fire into a multi-acre event inside of 30 minutes. So keep that in mind before you do anything outdoors today. For Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey, and coastal Maine wind, advisory is active with strong gusty winds in areas of reduced visibility. And here is something else the Northeast needs to know. A frost and freeze risk is returning to the region in the days behind this front. So if you put anything in the ground this spring, cover it before Thursday night. And I need to take a breath here and pull all the way back for just a second because I want to make sure this full picture lands clearly as of right now, today, May 5th, 2026, we have a winter storm warning active in Colorado, a tornado risk from Texas to Alabama, a high wind warning from Albany to the Hudson Valley, and a lake effect snow warning in northern Michigan. All four of those are happening simultaneously. That is not a normal May, folks, and I want to be straight with you about why this entire pattern is being driven by a long, persistent blocking low parked over Canada that has been steering storm after storm on unusual tracks all spring long, pushing severe weather into regions that do not normally see this level of multi-hazard activity this late in the season. Northern Michigan is also very much in this picture today if you are up near Petoskey or Emmett County along the northern shore of Lake Michigan. There is a lake effect snow warning in effect for you, with the potential for narrow, intense snow bands that can stack up quickly and produce sudden near-zero visibility driving conditions with almost no advance warning on the road. Traverse City, Cadillac, Gladwin, Ludington, and Alpena winter weather advisory is active across northern lower Michigan. Lake effect snow is deceptively dangerous because it can go from nothing to whiteout inside of a few minutes depending on exactly where you are in relation to the snowband, and that suddenness is what catches drivers off guard every single time. Bob from Traverse City, buddy. You know how those lake effect bands work better than most people do. 1 minute the road is clear. 3 minutes later you cannot see the hood of your car. If you are driving anywhere near the shore today, give yourself twice the following distance and be ready to pull off, because this is not the kind of snow that gives you any warning at all. Now, before we get to the summary, here is that piece I promised you at the very top of the video, and I want you to hear this clearly because it is a complete 180 from everything we have been talking about. While the north is buried in snow and the south is ducking tornadoes, Phoenix is about to blast into triple digits by Friday, and triple digits is not even the extreme part. That is just the appetizer. A massive heat dome is forecast to build over the southwestern United States starting around Monday, May 11th, with a moderate risk for extreme heat targeting the desert Southwest and the California Central Valley through the midweek period. We are essentially skipping spring entirely and diving headfirst into the most dangerous heat of 2026 so far for the entire Southwest region. Daily highs well past 100 degrees, humidity values in the desert plummeting into the teens, and the Sacramento Valley sitting at a 60% chance of hitting 95 degrees by this weekend. And if you are one of the hundreds of thousands headed to EDC in Las Vegas next weekend, take this heat dead seriously, hydrate aggressively, and understand it is going to be dangerously hot even well after sunset. Sandra from Phoenix, honey, I know you are used to the heat, but the models are hinting this dome could push your city toward records that have not been touched since 2020. Check on your elderly neighbors who might not have air conditioning. Keep the kids inside through the peak afternoon hours, and do not underestimate what triple-digit dry heat does to a person who is not used to it. And here's the one piece of genuinely good news in all of this, because honest to goodness, I promised you some, and I am delivering Seattle, Portland, and Eugene. You're about to have one of the best weather days of the entire year on Wednesday. A strong ridge parks right over the west coast. That morning, marine layer burns off fast, and you are looking at crystal clear skies with afternoon highs pushing 80 degrees inland near zero rain chances. A light breeze. If you can call in sick Wednesday in the Pacific Northwest, you have my full permission. All right, let's bring this home, and instead of running through a list of days and regions, I want to give you the single most important idea to hold on to from this entire video, because this is the kind of week where the specific timing for your specific area is the only thing that actually matters for your safety. The South gets 2 separate severe weather windows Tuesday evening from DFW through Little Rock, then Wednesday night from East Texas through Alabama. Both windows peak after dark, both carry tornado risk, and both happen when most families are either going to sleep or already asleep. That back-to-back timing is the whole reason this week is particularly dangerous. The Rockies and I-25 corridor get their worst Wednesday morning power outages, near zero visibility, and branch-crushing heavy snow on leafed-out trees. Denver gets the commute disruption, the mountain passes get whiteout conditions, and the high plains stretching into Kansas get the tail end of it through Thursday. The Tennessee Valley and Southern Appalachians get the flooding threat Wednesday afternoon and evening, 1.5 to 4 inches on mountain terrain that has no room left to absorb it after April's above-normal rainfall. The flooding risk is separate from the storm risk, and it runs at the same time, which means you need both a shelter plan and a flood route plan ready before Wednesday morning. The Northeast gets the wind and fire spread risk today. Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey through New England get through today's advisory period safely. Keep flames away from dry outdoor areas this afternoon, and cover your garden plants before Thursday night when the frost risk moves in behind the front. And through all of it, across every single one of these regions, the single most important thing you can do right now, before you finish this video, before you pick up your phone, before you do anything else, is make sure your wireless emergency alerts are turned on. That is not optional this week. That is the thing. If you have somebody you care about in Texarkana, Little Rock, Jackson, Birmingham, Denver, or anywhere along the I-25 corridor tonight, do me a solid and send this to them today. A heads up from someone they trust lands differently than a push notification they are going to swipe away without reading. That is just the honest truth about how people actually respond to warnings. The models are still sharpening on Wednesday's Deep South setup, no joke. The forecast this afternoon may look different from the one I pulled this morning, so check back for updates. And do not let any single forecast from any single point in time be the last word you take into Wednesday night unprepared. And listen, I want to hear from you directly. Drop your city and state right in the comments and tell me which part of this week has you most concerned for your specific area. I go through every single comment, and as this system moves, I will come back with a specific breakdown for your location. That is not a line. That is actually how I track who needs what and when. Charge your phone right now and get your backup battery ready when power outages hit multiple regions inside the same 24-hour window. The last thing you want is to be sitting at 12% when a warning drops at 2 in the morning and your family is depending on that alert to get moving. Burn this into your memory before you close this video. 4 million Americans under a winter storm warning in May, 2 feet of snow on trees that are already fully leafed out, and 8 million people in the South facing back-to-back severe weather nights, one storm system, doing all of that at the same time. This week, stay safe out there, take care of the folks around you, go knock on your neighbor's door if they are the kind of person who does not watch the weather, and we will see you in the next update as this whole thing keeps rolling through.